I'm between lunch and AI, I believe. I think there's too much of AI today. You guys all need massage in the evening. I strongly feel yes. Well, coming to the my profession, yes, like I worked as a chief digital officer. Now I'm continuing as a consulting, where I look at the not just the digital transformation, I also look at the revenue growth part of my role. And having said that, the 23 years of experience, which is I joined as a data analyst. From there, spanning across the CPG, FMCG industry, finance, now the healthcare, and that's where my span of experience which goes into. I believe in the last 5 years back, when I was a CDO, I used to walk into the floor and the board of directors, and everyone used to ask me, "Arey, everyone are doing AI. When are you going to do?" So we'll do, sir. And I always used to say that answer, look at where do I start? Now, after 5 years of span, again, you walk into the board of directors, they always say that you're doing a lot of AI, but I'm not seeing revenue. When do I see revenue? So this is where, which my topic comes in. So the question is, you can learn a lot about driving, but only when you sit on the driver's seat, you know what it means and how to handle the pressure, what comes on your head, and how to handle your board of directors, and what kind of initiatives, which you'll have to take in order to justify what kind of investments you require, whether you are taking the investments and how do you justify the revenue out of it. So a lot of these questions, which comes, and that's where, you start feeling the pressure. And that's where lot of the slides will talk about some of these insights, and I'll share some of my experience, how I've been handling all these things, and hope it's going to be a good insights to move forward. All right, so coming to the topic, and very clearly 75% of potential value offered by generative AI is very clearly into 4 key areas today. Number 1 is your marketing and sales. Second is the customer service. And then comes the software engineering. Pretty much everyone expects AI is a technology world, so it pretty much happens in the software engineering part and the R&D. And you look at the next one, which is from Gartner, which says 45% is still in the service and business continuity programs. That's where a lot of the functions are seeing the benefit of AI, and 43% still you look at the revenue and the cost optimization. So which means you don't have to look at building competency. There is a lot in your own organizations which you're responsible for, and as a digital head or the technology head, when you go out, your own stakeholders, own functions of the organizations have n number of opportunities to scale generative AI. So that's where I'm coming to the point. So the question is, love, as a leader, or being leaders of the organization, as managers, and how do we pitch in, or how do we look at transforming the entire organization to the artificial intelligence, and utilizing many of these benefits to, they take the revenue, or show somewhere on the revenue growth, or the cost optimization growth. Cost optimization typically comes very naturally for us, being Indians, because we always look at, where do I cut? That comes naturally. But revenue growth is something that, where I'm going to put 10% more, and I'm going to show the organization 20% more benefit, the revenue. So that's where a lot of the challenges which comes in. Nowadays, they're having around 60 lakh startups, which I heard some kind of a numbers sometime back. So imagine, the startups which are coming, they want to make revenue in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and they just want to get out and sell it to someone. They just want to move ahead. So how are you going to meet the competition? So your next jobs, because of all this generative AI techniques, and it is becoming more the low-ended jobs. So how are you going to survive is and the startups are creating the jobs for you. So you got to survive in these kind of an environments. So how are you going to prepare yourself to prove your identity and your expertise to to scale the revenue for them? Let's go into the one more insight. Very clearly, the share of response. This is one of the survey which is from McKinsey, which says the pretty much all the functions in the organizations where everyone have started using AI. And marketing and sales, product and service development, which is pretty much the business continuity for you. Everywhere, I think it is some places it has started, some places it's picked up very well. And you look at some of the topics, where the utilization is more. You look at on the marketing front, it's all about the personalized marketing. How do I make and have my marketing more personalized so that the person comes and converts? Or I look at the product and service development, it's more on the quality or the productivity improvements. On the service operations, it's more about the making sure my customer is satisfied and my NPS goes up, and tomorrow he's going to become my organic channel, so that my business grows up without my getting my paid investments down. All right, so And if you look at all the functional process in acceleration today, I think that pretty much talks about like, the way the disruption is happening on the generative AI. Going to the next one, just giving a hint of like, the few key industry domains. And if I look at the functions, the heavy, utilization is happening of the generative AI impact is pretty much on marketing and sales, which is pretty much like, the banging everywhere. Like, we got to transform them because your money as an investment in advertisements and campaigns are going there. And that is the key for me to get my acquisition cost down. How do I get my acquisition cost down? Is getting my cost per lead down and making sure, like, they understand, like, what channels I do investment in and how, how do I make the quality investments and so that, like, my acquisition cost goes down. So that's the biggest pressure. It's a revenue. And you look at customer operations, like, a lot of these chatbots and service aspects or many things are coming up. And few places like, healthcare is slightly stronger, telecommunications slightly stronger. Very simple is like, the better the service is, your NPS is higher. And plus, the better the service is, your customers will become a channel for you tomorrow. So that's where your referrals is like, pretty much 35 to 40% of your company revenue comes from your referrals today across industry. I think that's where like, a lot of this, scale is pretty much happening. But having said that, like, why there is so much of lag today, you look at like, I think 28% still, say generative AI is still on their board agenda. That means like, investments is still, people are hesitating or people are still not ready, or maybe like, a lot of these companies because of COVID and things like that, like, we are still struggling to get that income and make that strong decision. Like, I put my money, I'll take the revenue, like, the ROI maybe after 2 years or 3 years. That patience is not there. I never seen, like, whenever I go and meet my boss, like, I don't see him, like, he's always in a worry look. I don't never see him, like, very relaxed or somewhere, like, he knows, like, he's happy with what he's doing. But there is something, like, the revenue is always hitting his head. So what do I do next? Like, obviously, that's where, like, how do we make this 28% and becomes an execution side? And how do I make this 40%, go to the 60%, like, where people already have adopted the, those respondents who already adopted the AI part of their day-to-day job. So that's where a lot of the leadership skills comes in. And how do I go about? Okay, so number one is like, this is kind of a roadmap. I got these two wonderful strategies, like, I thought of sharing it today. Number one is from the Microsoft practice lead, and he talks about a very good strategy, which pretty much goes into the becoming a strong execution leader. And number one is like, to become an AI organization, and your artificial intelligence should become a culture of the organization. So everybody should talk about every function should talk about like, how I can transform myself with the artificial intelligence. So it has to be a culture. 5 years back when the digital transformation came into so much and everywhere, like, we were like, trying to make the culture. Adoption is very, very difficult. You have so many other stakeholders, leaders, like, who do not want to change, would not want to accept some things, like, they're busy with their own KPIs and metrics. So, like, then that is where, like, you got to make sure your vertical heads are very, very clear about, like, what they're going to get. And assess the maturity, and very important part of it is pretty much the tactical roadmap, the 6th one. That is where, like, you clearly define, when you meet the functional heads, and whether it is a marketing, whether it is a service, whether it's operations, supply chain, wherever you go and meet these stakeholders, like, please let them understand, like, how it is going to benefit, removing some of the pain points they're dealing with. How it's going to benefit on the acquisition side, how it's going to transform their productivity. And one of the key aspects is, many times, most of us would have started AI implementation in one or the other way in the organization. And if you're still not started, like, make sure you understand, like, what your organization is looking to. Whether they are the employee-first organization or the customer-first organization. So where you want to make a difference. The first thing that you need is, like, you got to get the approval from the board. So that's very, very important. So where you're going to make the difference, and the quick impact is, like, very much, which is necessary. That's where, like, you have to be very wise in choosing, like, what KPIs, and when you're talking to the functional heads of different departments. And the other part, like, which I also got one of the reference, where the kind of roadmap, like, it pretty much talks about your technology stack has to be very, very good. AI doesn't work, like, if you don't have the information ready. So make sure your data information flows across, your integration is well taken care, and there is a seamless flow of data across, so that the AI tackles with both the structured and unstructured data. So it is left to that later. But the question is are you ready with the data infrastructure? So that's where your first question comes. The second thing is about making sure while you prepare the data and infrastructure, make sure you build the culture. Everyone talks about AI, build that awareness, do a lot of events so that everyone sees that there's something is going to come. And then comes the how do you build the kind of ecosystem with the partnerships with the various stakeholders and bringing the people you don't have to build the competency, I'm telling you. So I think building competency will take a lot of time. By the time you think about GPT 4, 5, I'm sure there'll be 10 by the time you implement something. So it's going to be a lot of challenge when you build something and it becomes an excessive exercise on and making sure you have to fine tune your. I know that get into that no code kind of a thing and make sure the existing employees they are the best employees because they are well versed with domain, they understand the organization culture. How best we can make upskill them so that we could utilize. And later it's all about we know very well who are best performers, top performers, things like that. It's always there, part of a regular exercise that we do, part of the performance of the appraisals. Now I'll get into the each function just to give a hints of how you tackle things. Marketing is one of the area where most of the things are happening. So when you're talking to a marketing head and getting the AI transformation on the generative side, generative AI is pretty much you need to know what their pain point is. Number one is the marketing head is responsible for getting the getting all the campaigns out or reaching the customers or reaching the prospects who are the potential prospects who are there in the market. The question comes is where he's going to do that. He's doing it on the Google, he's doing it in the Google search, he's doing it in the display, he's doing it on the social media platforms. A lot of these channels that he's doing it. The question is you need to know what these platforms are. Someone who's coming to Google, someone who's coming to your website is the person who's already made a decision and he's coming and searching for you. So when he's coming to search for you, that means your target is very, very clear. So your spends you can justify. But when you're putting the same ads on social media platforms, what happens is your social media platforms or the awareness platforms, the people who are there are not only the target audience, you will see 90% of the people who are exploring audience. I'm interested, yeah, something this looks interesting to me, I will just go and click on it, but your money is gone. So it's a question of I understand the channels well, what he's trying to do, where, what the platform, and how I'm going to help him. So that is where if you look at one example of the social media, so he's going to just put his content, but I don't know what kind of interest, as a platform, as an ad platform, it will give me some filters into what kind of interest people are looking to, what kind of behavior they have. So up to some level we will have the control. But if your generative AI, if it can help you get into specific audience on the sale versus sale versus the awareness. Brand awareness is different where you want to build a brand presence. So visibility versus the acquisition, if you can separate them and make that kind of a choice for him. I think that's where your generative AI will win the marketing on the acquisition cost. So your cost of acquisition will come down because you're very, very clear on whom you're targeting and whom you're targeting for brand, whom you're targeting for product. So some of the examples which is pretty much there for you to look at what are the key KPIs when you're going to talk to the marketing head when you have a conversation with them. And what are the use cases they have listed few. And one of the very interesting one which I felt as a customer engagement is Sephora's virtual artist. You upload a photo on the chat and it will do a makeup and it will do a right makeup and it will show the customer this is how you look, this kind of a makeup. Look at how your generative AI is trying to take the your selling side of the world. So that's where you can do a lot of these things. Part of the marketing. One is about brand visibility or the reach to the audience. The second thing is about how do we engage them. The third thing is about making sure you reach the right audience or the target audience that you're looking for. And this is about the sales. Selling world is I think most of the time you don't know the productivity of the sales guy. And that's a bigger challenge in all the market, including healthcare. And we want simple example in the healthcare, I send my sales guy, okay, you need to build the doctor partnership, and you need to have the sales done, you need to stay in the hospital, you need to go here, you need to go there, but no way you can monitor that. And at the same time, like, as an organization, have I made him organized enough so that, like, he has all the information what to do for the day? Even that point, like, I think as an organization we failed. I think it's a lot of examples today, like, what we have is, like, we are trying to get to that level where we know exactly, like, what it's trying to do. So it's look at the funnel, like, and how exactly the sale function, like, once you get the audience, the prospects, and you got to ensure you engage them, you provide enough information, you provide the competition approach, like, and how you're different from competition. A lot of these materials, like, he has to share upfront, and it goes everything, like, from his WhatsApp, and you don't have a track as an organization. A lot of these things, like, which is AI is taking care today. Your email, generative AI, which sends the email today, like, which is a consolidated view of, like, how best content that you can give it to your audience, so they're completely in control of, like, what do they need. And when you're talking about someone is asking for more information, like, and how do you, how about that company, how about this company, how about this product, and, like, this product is giving me 5-star rating, that product is giving me 3-star, like, what about you, things like that. So it's all about the product information. How easy and best, like, I can represent. As a sales guy, I don't know, but generative AI is helping today to scale to that level, make it very simplified, and so that, like, the customer understands, like, what he wants to do. Now coming to the, someone is, like, who's interested, like, he comes back 2-3 times, or, like, okay, he's on Facebook, he comes to my website. So that means, like, I know the guy, like, okay, he's coming to my channel, and he's also there on the social media platform, which means the chance of conversion is very, very high, because he's again and again he's coming back to me. So the kind of conversation that I'm going to have with them is very, very different and very personalized. So personalized marketing, making sure, like, hey John, like, this is what, like, you're looking for. I have this 10% offer for you, like, if you buy this, by this weekend, and, like, plus, like, you also get this, things like that, like, which becomes very personalized. Hey, I'm looking for this. Now I have a better offer. So the kind of conversation which we have to do, and which is generative AI, like, with the help of generative AI, is going to make a huge, huge difference. And we already witnessed a lot of these things, like, the part of the day-to-day operations. And coming to the customer service, of course, like, everybody knows your chatbots is a bigger story in the AI. And coming to the Google Smart Reply features, like, it's a simple, everybody are enjoying this right now. And you don't believe the school kids are using generative AI, the GPTs, like, to create the PPTs. The assignments, what they're getting from schools, like, they're using the generative AI, like, they're getting those PPTs and, just labeling and changing all these things, like, they're so quick. But the question is now, your productivity has improved. They are focusing more on, like, how do I communicate? How do I, like, stand and deliver? What do I talk about? So your quality aspects are growing up today. It's the same thing as, like, in the industry too. So a lot of these things, like, which you are pretty much you're doing, time consuming, a lot of these things, like, where you have to spend time, you have to create slides, you have to do this. So all these things is generative AI is able to do that and keep it ready for you. And it also, like, you just need to type few keywords and say, like, what kind of a metrics are, like, which I can talk to them, based on this data. Your AI will give you that, the choices, like, so that, like, you can quickly make a choice of, like, what you want to talk about. HR, of course, like, the 3 key functional areas. One is staffing. The second one is, like, it's your training and development. The third thing is pretty much on the regular support, like, which they are allowed to manage across the functions. So if you look at these things, the resume screening, candidate matching, like, today generative AI is giving the score for you on the resume. So the people, like, there are 100 resumes comes in for the job, so you don't want to go through all the 100 resumes. So you have a score, like, look at the top 5 and go through the top 5, which is enough for you. So which is making your job easier. And to the extent it has gone where your HR knows the people who would leave, who would turn out, like, very closely. So that, like, he goes and address those people, like, using generative AI. So any company, any industry that you go, like, the HR function is pretty much, the outside all this technology, AI and other things typically. So as a technology leader, like, I think this is where, like, you got to see, like, and how you make your functions realize what's the potential. And that's where I talked about, like, where you want to create a quick impact. Whether it's a employee first kind of an approach will work better, or the customer first approach will work better. So based on that, you choose the KPIs and talk to the functions, and from there, like, you gear up. And of course, supply chain is pretty much on quality, and your, cost optimization is a bigger thing, like, which is happening today. And one of the big change that is happening is, like, for customers, on the NPS side. today, like, whatever the order, like, till the order comes, like, where the person is, everything is like, the generative AI is making so clear, not just the emails on the links, it will give you those communications or conversations on the kind of channels that you require. So it has gone to that level. So that's where, like, generative AI is pretty much very, very convenient with all the platforms, communication platforms today. And NLP is another big booster, like, considering the kind of languages, so many languages, the tier 2 audience, tier 3 audience across the country. I think that's where, like, everything that you communicate, customers can interact with a kind of a language, like, with a language they get more comfortable in speaking and listening. That's a bigger change that has come. Then comes the production and manufacturing, which is picking up now. And especially it was started well on the quality and the control side, and now it's scaling pretty much on the customization, product designs, and many of these, especially in the product design and prototyping, is picking up big time. Not only in this manufacturing, on the mechanical side, also on the automobile side, like, it's picking up very, very well. Yes, and that's pretty much like, which I wanted to get the ground to you on the execution side. So as a recap, generative AI, yes, like, it has to be an organization strategy if you want to make it very successful. And end of the day, like, when you walk on the floor, I think the floor has to speak about the AI rather than, like, it becomes a, vision to go ahead. The thing is, like, if you're not doing it now, 2-3 years, everything is AI. So you will not have a chance to go back and, get these things. You'll be very, very late with the competition. I said second one is very, very clear information. Make sure before everything, your data, infrastructure, systems integrated very well. Your informations are seamless across the system. Whatever you look for, like, whether you look at the customer first approach, the customer journey, starting from onboarding him, or starting with the campaigns from there, like, the onboarding him and getting him to the conversion, the engagement, and making sure, like, he becomes a loyal customer tomorrow. The entire life cycle is pretty much like, it's your data infrastructure, information has to be seamless. And the third one is about the right set of KPIs. You can't do everything the day one. So when you want to make an impact, look at, like, one KPI which is going to make a huge difference to the marketing head, or the HR, or the supply chain. Pick up those one KPIs, and that's why, like, you start delivering. And your resource, I don't want to always keep saying that, like, AI is going to take the world. I mean, it's like a smartphone. Like, you moved to smartphones, and everywhere smartphones, like, people switch smartphones because, like, they get something better. But, like, there is something else, like, which is going to scale. So end of the day, your employees right now who are there in the system are the best people, like, who can add value, because, like, they're well versed with domain, they understand the organization culture, they know very well, but all they need is, like, the skill. So if not anything, if you don't want to train them on, like, a lot of these aspects, make sure, like, at least you get them how best you can use the AI, generative AI techniques. And with that, like, at least have them prepared for prompting generative AI. So prompt engineering is very, very important, like, to upskill your employees. And last but the least is the, make sure, like, you have success managers whenever you talk about one KPI for an organization, for a function of the organization. So make sure, like, you have a success manager. And the key is, like, make sure you have a non-technical success manager. So that, like, he acts as a layman, and then the kind of a product quality or the kind of a product that you're looking at, like, it is obviously the best level when the product comes out. So it's a lot of compromise happens, like, when your technical manager, when your technical guy becomes a manager versus a non-technical guy and becomes a success manager. It's a different story. So that's where, like, I'm coming into what the layman, end of the day, whatever we do, it's for, like, it's a layman kind of an experience, is like, what we try to give. And that's what is going to make the difference on both the aspects, is your revenue or your optimization. So that's where I end this, and so wish you the best of partnership with AI and for all your efforts in your organization. Thank you so much.